She invited him over while I was away, so I walked in with the sheriff and divorce papers. I'm George, 34, commercial real estate appraiser. Started my firm 6 years ago after getting sick of making other people rich. Now I evaluate properties worth millions, and I've gotten pretty good at spotting when something's value is inflated or when the foundation is rotten. Turns out, that skill applies to marriages too. Ina and I met 7 years ago at a charity auction. She was coordinating the event, working as a grant writer for environmental nonprofits. Smart, passionate, gorgeous, the kind of woman who could sell ice to Eskimos when she believed in something. We married 2 years later. Built a life. Bought a house. Talked about kids. The changes started in October. Subtle at first, the kind of SHT you notice when you're trained to spot discrepancies in property assessments. She started taking her phone to the bathroom. Every time. Even for a quick PS. When I asked about it once, casually, she laughed and said she was reading articles. But her laptop was right there on the coffee table. Then came the password changes. We'd always had each other's passwords, not from distrust, just convenience. Hey, can you check my email while I'm driving? That kind of thing. Suddenly, her phone had facial recognition only. Her laptop required a new password. When I mentioned it, she said her nonprofit was implementing new security protocols. I evaluate BS for a living. This was grade A horse SHT. The book club started meeting twice a week instead of monthly. These meetings ran until midnight, sometimes 1 a.m. She'd come home smelling like wine and something else, not another woman's perfume, but men's soap. The expensive kind. Not cologne, but that specific smell of high-end body wash. Here's where I started paying real attention. She mentioned Philip 3 times in 2 weeks. Her friend Monica's business consultant who was helping with some coffee sustainability initiative. Philip owned a specialty coffee roasting company, she said. He was passionate about fair trade. He was so knowledgeable about supply chains. I've been in business long enough to know that nobody talks about their friend's consultant that much unless they're effing them. The confirmation came when she forgot she was still logged into our shared cloud storage on my tablet. Modern technology, it'll hang you if you're careless. Her photos were syncing, including the ones she'd deleted from her phone. Screenshots of conversations she thought were gone forever. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about what you did with your tongue. When's he leaving town again? I need you. Your bed is so much bigger than mine. That last one hit different. My bed. The mother effer had been in my bed. I sat in my home office for 3 hours that night, while she slept peacefully down the hall. I could have woken her up. Could have printed everything and thrown it in her face. Could have kicked her out right then. But I don't move without thinking. Never have. Instead, I made a spreadsheet. Yeah, a effing spreadsheet. Listed every asset, every account, every debt, every possession worth more than $500. Then I started planning. First call was to Richard Winters, the nastiest divorce attorney in the state. He specialized in high asset divorces where one party was trying to hide SHT. Retainer paid in cash from my business account that Ina didn't know existed. Second call was to a private investigator Richard recommended. Former FBI, specialized in financial fraud and infidelity cases. Not some wannabe cop with a camera, a real professional who knew how to document everything legally. Third step was subtle. I started moving money. Nothing dramatic or traceable as hiding assets. Just paying off debts from our joint accounts, my student loans, the car notes, credit cards. All legitimate payments that happened to drain our shared liquid assets. I also prepaid our mortgage for 6 months from the joint account. Every transaction completely legal and defensible. The Pi, Carson, started surveillance immediately. Within a week, he had Philip's whole life mapped out. The F was married too. Had 2 kids. His coffee business was leveraged to the hilt. He'd been using his reputation to float loans while effing around behind his wife's back. Carson got photos. Not the grainy, sleazy kind. Professional surveillance photography that would hold up in court. Philip entering my house at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday when I was supposedly at a property viewing. Ina greeting him at the door in lingerie I'd bought her for our anniversary. Time-stamped, geotagged, irrefutable. But here's the thing about being a real estate appraiser, my schedule is flexible as F. I make my own appointments. So when Ina thought I was evaluating a strip mall 40 miles away, I was actually parked 3 blocks over, watching Carson document everything. The pattern was consistent. Every Tuesday and Thursday when I had site visits, Philip would arrive within 30 minutes of my departure. He'd stay for 2 to 3 hours. They weren't even trying to be subtle after the first few weeks. Effer parked his Tesla right in my driveway. November rolled around, and I got a legitimate contract to evaluate a portfolio of properties in Denver. 5-day trip, flying out Sunday, back Thursday night. I told Ina about it 2 weeks in advance, made sure she knew the exact dates. "That's a long trip," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Good money though. The commission will cover the kitchen renovation you wanted." That got her attention. She looked up, smiled that fake smile I'd been seeing for months. "Well, be safe. I'll miss you." Sure she would. I booked the flights. Made hotel reservations. Arranged meetings with the property managers. Then I called each one, rescheduled for the following week, and canceled my travel. The airline credit would come in handy later. That Sunday morning, I made a big show of packing. Kissed Ina goodbye, she barely looked away from her phone. Drove to the airport, parked in long-term parking, then took an Uber to a hotel 15 minutes from my house. Paid cash, registered under my middle name, which was perfectly legal. Carson was already in position with surveillance equipment. We had a clear view of my house from a rental property I'd coincidentally evaluated the previous month. The owner owed me a favor. Sunday night, nothing. Ina posted on Instagram about self-care Sunday with a glass of wine and a face mask. Monday, she went to work normal time, came home normal time. I was starting to wonder if maybe she'd developed some restraint. Tuesday morning answered that question. Philip's Tesla pulled up at 9:47 a.m. Ina had called in sick to work. Carson confirmed this with a contact at her nonprofit. Philip walked in carrying an overnight bag. An overnight bag. To my house. While I was supposedly in Denver. I texted Carson, "Document everything." Then I texted Richard, "It's happening. Execute phase 2. Richard had already prepared the divorce papers. Nevada is a no-fault state, but infidelity affects alimony and asset division when there's evidence of financial misconduct, like using marital assets to support an affair. Every dinner she'd paid for with him using our credit card, every hotel room, every gift, it all counted. I also called Sheriff Thompson. Yeah, I know the sheriff. Evaluated his mother's estate after she passed, helped him understand the real value so his siblings couldn't screw him in probate. He owed me. "Tom, remember that situation we discussed? I need a civil standby at my residence tomorrow at 2 p.m. You sure about this, George?" "Dead sure. And Tom? The other party might claim residence. He doesn't live there. I have all the documentation proving he's a trespasser." "Understood. We'll be there." Tuesday night, Philip was still there. They ordered DoorDash on my credit card. Chinese food. From the place she claimed she hated. Carson got thermal imaging showing them in the master bedroom from 10 p.m. to past midnight. Then movement to the guest room. Then back to master. They were effing in every room of my house. Wednesday morning, Philip left at 7 a.m., probably to maintain appearances at his business. He was back by noon with more bags. These effers were turning my house into their personal resort. I spent Wednesday reviewing everything with Richard. The asset protection was complete, everything I could legally secure was secured. The business was solely in my name, always had been. The house was tricky, but Richard had found precedent for forcing a sale in cases of infidelity with evidence of the affair partner living in the marital home. The sheriff would meet me at 1:45 p.m. Thursday. Richard would be there at 1:30 to brief them on the legal situation. Carson would be recording everything from across the street. I had 3 copies of all evidence, one for the court, one for my attorney, one in a safety deposit box. Thursday morning, I watched from my hotel as Ina left for work at her normal time. Philip arrived at 10:30 a.m. Early today. Eager. At 1 p.m., I checked out of the hotel, drove to a Starbucks, and had the best coffee of my life. Not because it was good coffee, but because I knew in an hour, everything would change. Richard texted at 1:35, "Sheriff's here. We're ready." I pulled up to my own house at 1:55 p.m. Parked right behind Philip's Tesla, blocking him in. The sheriff's cruiser was subtle, parked one house down. Richard was in his Mercedes across the street. I had my key, of course, but I knocked. Loud. Authoritative. The silence inside was immediate. I could picture them scrambling, panicking. I knocked again. "Ina, I know you're in there. Open the door," shuffling. Whispering. Then her voice, trying to sound casual through the door, "George? What are you doing home?" I thought. "Open the door, Aina. The sheriff is here. That changed the energy immediately. The door opened 2 inches, chain still on. She was wearing my robe. My effing robe. What's going on? Why is the sheriff? Sheriff Thompson stepped into view. Ma'am, we need you to open the door fully. Her face went white. She closed the door, undid the chain, opened it again. Behind her, I could see Philip trying to pull on his pants while holding his shirt. George, this isn't, I can explain. I walked past her into my own house, Richard and the sheriff behind me. The place reeked of Essex and that expensive body wash I'd been smelling on her for months. Philip was now dressed, barely, his shirt buttoned wrong. Hey man, look, this is just a misunderstanding. No, I said, turning to the sheriff. This man is trespassing in my home. I want him removed. What? No, I was invited. By someone who doesn't have sole authority to grant access, Richard interjected smoothly. Mr. George owns this property individually, purchased before marriage. Mrs. George has residence rights, but cannot authorize overnight guests without the owner's permission. Philip's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He looked at Aina, who was starting to cry. Furthermore, Richard continued, pulling out a folder, Mrs. George, you're being served with divorce papers. You have 30 days to respond. He handed her the stack. She didn't take it, so he placed it on the entry table. George, please, she started, mascara running. Let's talk about this. It's not what it looks like. The thermal imaging says otherwise, I said flatly. So do the photos. And the credit card records. And your text messages. Her crying stopped. You've been spying on me? I've been documenting. There's a difference. Philip was edging toward the door. Sheriff Thompson stepped in his path. Sir, I need to see your ID before you leave. Why? Documentation. Also, your wife might want to know where you've been spending your Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. That hit him like a sledgehammer. You contacted Patricia? Not yet, I said. But my attorney has her attorney's information. Whether that communication happens depends entirely on how smoothly this goes. He went even paler, if that was possible. Aina found her voice again, switching from tears to rage. You can't just throw me out. This is my home too. You're right, Richard said. You have 30 days to vacate per the agreement. However, effective immediately, Mr. Philip here is trespassed. If he returns, he'll be arrested. You can't. Actually, I can. Sheriff, please escort Mr. Philip out. Philip grabbed his shoes, his jacket, and his dignity, what was left of it, and walked out with the sheriff. He didn't even look back at Aina. She stood there in my robe, shaking with rage. You planned this. You effing planned all of this. Yes. How long have you known? 6 weeks. And you just waited? Watched? Like some kind of psycho? I prepared. Like an adult who wanted to protect his assets from someone who was effing another man in his bed. She flinched at the directness. I want to call my lawyer. Go ahead. Richard here has been preparing for 6 weeks too. Oh, and Aina? Check your access to the accounts. She pulled out her phone, frantically opening apps. I watched her face change as she realized every joint account had been legally drained through legitimate payments. The credit cards in her name were still there, but the ones tied to my business? Gone. You can't do this. Already did. Everything legal, everything documented. The prenup you signed, remember? The one you said we'd never need because we were forever? It's pretty clear about infidelity. We didn't actually have a prenup. But she was panicking too much to remember clearly, and the way her face crumbled told me everything about her guilty conscience. The house is mine. Purchased before marriage, title never changed. You have tenant rights for 30 days. My car is in your name, but the loan is paid off as of yesterday. You're welcome for that, by the way. Consider it a parting gift. She sank onto the couch where she'd probably effed Philip, and put her head in her hands. George, please. We can work through this. Couples therapy? No. But I love you. No, you don't. You love the lifestyle. You love the house. You love the security. But me? You haven't loved me for months, maybe longer. Richard cleared his throat. Mr. George, we should go. Mrs. George, my card is with the papers. Have your attorney contact me. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, Aina? Your nonprofit knows. They have a morality clause, don't they? Something about representing the organization's values? Her head snapped up. You didn't, I didn't have to. Turns out when you call in sick repeatedly to F your side piece, and your coworkers see said side piece's Tesla at your house on Instagram stories you forgot you posted, people figure SHT out. That was a lie. I hadn't contacted her work. But she'd believe it, and she'd out herself trying to explain. I walked out of my house, and didn't look back. Richard and I reconvened at his office to review next steps. The sheriff called later to confirm Philip had been officially trespassed. That night, I stayed in my hotel room and watched the storm explode on social media. Ayanna went nuclear, posting about emotional abuse, about surveillance, about her privacy being violated. She carefully omitted the adultery part. But here's the thing about social media, receipts matter. And Carson, beautiful btard that he was, had created a dossier that I could release if needed. I didn't even have to do it myself. Her friend Monica, the one whose consultant Philip supposedly was? She figured out the truth and went scorched earth. Turns out Philip had been telling his wife he was consulting for Monica's nonprofit during those Tuesday/Thursday sessions. When Monica found out she'd been used as an alibi for an affair, she posted everything. The screenshots Ayanna had sent her bragging about the SX. The photos from my security system Carson had pulled. The works. By Friday morning, Ayanna's reputation was destroyed. Her nonprofit placed her on administrative leave pending investigation. Philip's wife filed for divorce and a restraining order. His business partners started distancing themselves. But the best part? The absolute chef's kiss? Saturday, Ayanna tried to access the emergency fund. The one she didn't know I knew about. The account she'd opened in just her name, squirreling away $500 here, $1,000 there from our joint accounts over the past year. Preparing for something, though I doubt she knew what. Except I'd known about it for months. And when you're married, hidden assets are marital property. Richard had frozen it legally through the court. She called me, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. That was my money. My safety net. No, that was our money you were stealing. It's evidence now. I wasn't stealing. Transferring marital assets to a hidden individual account is theft, Ayanna. Ask your lawyer. I hate you. Good. Makes this easier. She hung up. Then called back an hour later, different energy entirely. Soft. Vulnerable. The voice she used to use when she wanted something expensive. George, baby, please. I made a mistake. One stupid mistake. 6 weeks of documented mistakes. It didn't mean anything. It meant something to me. Can we at least meet? Talk face to face? I'll do anything. Your attorney can contact mine. George. I hung up and blocked her number. All communication would go through lawyers now. Update 1, 2 weeks later. The divorce is proceeding faster than expected. Ayanna's attorney tried to claim I'd hidden assets, but Richard came with receipts for everything. Every transfer documented, every payment legitimate. The forensic accountant her lawyer hired basically shrugged and said everything was legal. Ayanna had to move back in with her parents. The 30-day notice stood, and she couldn't afford the mortgage on the house alone anyway. She tried to take furniture, but I had receipts proving I'd purchased everything before marriage or with my separate business funds. She got her clothes, her personal items, and the car I'd graciously paid off. That's it. Philip's life imploded harder than Ayanna's. His wife didn't just divorce him, she went after the business. Turns out when you commingle business and personal funds to finance your affairs, it opens up all sorts of legal vulnerabilities. His partners bought him out for pennies to avoid the scandal tanking their company. Last I heard, he was living in his Tesla. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. The house felt different without her. Not empty, cleansed. I hired a deep cleaning service, replaced the bedroom furniture, and had the locks changed, legally, after she vacated. Carson sent me his final report. Turns out this wasn't Ayanna's first rodeo. She'd had at least 2 other affairs over our marriage, just been more careful about them. The Philip situation was her getting sloppy, comfortable in her deception. The thing that really got me? In Carson's surveillance, he caught audio of her on the phone with her sister. Laughing about how clueless I was. How I was too boring to ever suspect anything. How Philip made her feel alive in ways I never could. Boring. The man who built a business from nothing, who gave her a life she couldn't have dreamed of on a nonprofit salary. Boring. Well, she found out how exciting I could be. Update 2, 6 weeks post-confrontation. Court date set. Ayana's attorney tried to negotiate for alimony, citing her reduced earning capacity since she lost her job. Richard laughed, actually laughed, in the mediation session. Your client was terminated for cause, misuse of sick leave and violating the organization's code of conduct. That's not reduced capacity, that's consequences. They pivoted to asking for equitable distribution despite the fact that I documented every asset as separate property. Then they tried the emotional abuse angle, claiming my surveillance caused psychological trauma. Richard pulled out the receipts. Not just of the affair, but of Ayana's spending. Turns out she'd been funding Philip's coffee business with our credit cards. Almost $30,000 over 6 months, disguised as charitable donations and business expenses. That's fraud. Criminal fraud. Suddenly, Ayana's attorney was very interested in a quick, quiet settlement. She'd take the car, her personal possessions, and walk away from everything else. No alimony, no claims on the house or business, nothing. In exchange, I wouldn't pursue criminal charges for the fraud. Richard advised me to take it. You could fight for more, maybe get her prosecuted, but it'll drag out for years and cost you more in legal fees than you'd recover. But here's the thing, I didn't want her money. I wanted her gone. Deal accepted. Update 3 months after D-Day. The divorce was finalized yesterday. Fastest dissolution in state history, according to Richard. When you have documentation, evidence, and a spouse desperate to avoid fraud charges, things move quickly. I saw Ayana once during the final signing. She looked rough. Living with her parents, working part-time at a call center, driving the paid-off car that was now her only asset. She'd tried to resurrect her social media presence, but the internet doesn't forget. Every post got bombarded with reminders of what she'd done. She tried to approach me after signing, tears in her eyes. George, I just want you to know. No. Please, just let me. No. We're done. You made your choices, I made mine. Live with it. Her mother was waiting in the parking lot. She glared at me like I was the villain. Like I'd corrupted her innocent daughter. I wanted to show her the surveillance photos, the text messages, the credit card records showing her daughter funding her boyfriend's business with stolen marital funds. Instead, I just got in my truck and drove away. Philip's divorce was messier. His wife took him for everything. The business buyout barely covered his legal fees. Last I heard, he was working as a barista at a Starbucks, not even a manager, just a regular barista. His specialty coffee expertise didn't mean SHT when he'd torched his entire professional network. The universe has a sense of humor. Update 6 months later. Life is good. No, seriously. I know these revenge stories usually end with some philosophical BS about forgiveness or moving on, but F that. I sleep better knowing I handled my business properly. The house is mine, fully and completely. I renovated the kitchen, not the one Ayana wanted with the ridiculous Italian marble, but something actually functional. Replaced all the furniture she'd tainted with her affairs. Got a dog, German Shepherd named Duke, who's better company than she ever was. Business is booming. Turns out when you handle a crisis with calm precision, word gets around. I've gotten 3 major commercial contracts from people who heard about how I handled my situation. Professional reputation intact and enhanced. Started dating again last month. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and dinners with women who actually have their SHT together. It's refreshing being with people who don't lie reflexively. Ayana reached out through a mutual friend last week. She wanted to know if I'd consider giving her a reference for a job. She was applying for a grant writer position and needed someone to vouch for her work history. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my bourbon. The friend said Ayana was struggling to move forward and hoped I could find it in my heart to help. Here's the thing about forgiveness, it's for people who deserve it. Who show genuine remorse, who make amends, who change. Ayana was just sorry she got caught, sorry she faced consequences, sorry her comfortable life evaporated. I told the friend to pass along a message. She made her bed. Multiple times. In my house. With another man. She can lie in it alone now. Final update, 1 year later. This will be my last update on this situation. I'm closing this chapter permanently. Ran into Philip at a commercial property viewing last month. He was there as someone's assistant, carrying their coffee and taking notes. He saw me, went pale, and tried to disappear into the background. I didn't acknowledge him. He doesn't exist in my world anymore. Ayana got married 2 weeks ago. Yeah, you read that right. Married. To some guy she met online who apparently doesn't Google his dates. The wedding was small, according to the one mutual friend we still share. Her parents' backyard, maybe 20 people. She posted one photo on a new Instagram account. She looked happy, I guess. Older, definitely. Harder around the eyes. The kind of hardness that comes from learning that actions have consequences. Her new husband owns a food truck. Sells tacos. They live in a one-bedroom apartment 40 miles from here. A far cry from the house she thought she'd steal from me, the life she thought she could have with both my money and Philip's D. Part of me wonders if she learned anything. If she tells her new husband about what happened. If she's actually changed or if she's just better at hiding it now. But mostly, I don't care. I'm engaged now. Her name's Diana, she's a structural engineer, and she actually understands what I do for a living. We met at a professional conference, boring as F, according to Ina's standards. But Diana appreciates precision, values honesty, and has never once felt the need to text other men at midnight. We're getting married next fall. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. No elaborate show, no pretense, just two people who actually respect each other making it official. I had to tell Diana about Ina early in our relationship. Showed her everything, the whole file Carson had compiled. She read through it, asked a few questions, then said, "You handled that exactly how I would have." Methodically and definitively. That's when I knew she was the one. Richard still tells the story of our divorce at legal conferences. Says it's the cleanest execution of asset protection and evidence gathering he's seen in 30 years of practice. Even wrote a paper on it for some legal journal, names changed of course. Carson retired last year but sent me a bottle of 18-year-old Macallan with a note, to the client who never lost his cool. May all your future appraisals be accurate. The sheriff, Tom, still jokes about it when I see him. Remember that time you had me evict your wife's boyfriend from your own house? Classic. But here's the real victory, I never lost myself in this. Never became the bitter ex-husband ranting at the bar. Never let it turn me into someone I'm not. I handled it like I handle everything, with calculation, preparation, and execution. Ina thought she was playing me. Thought I was too boring, too predictable, too trusting to catch on. She mistook stability for stupidity, confused calm for clueless. She learned the hard way that the most dangerous enemy is the one who doesn't telegraph his moves. Who watches, waits, and strikes only when victory is guaranteed. I didn't break her life out of anger. I dismantled it methodically because it was built on the foundation of my trust, and when she violated that trust, I simply reclaimed what was mine and let her keep the rubble. The house is on the market now. Diana and I are building something custom, from scratch. No ghosts, no memories, no lingering smell of expensive body wash and betrayal. Sometimes I drive past that Starbucks where Philip works. Not to gloat, just because it's on my route to certain properties. He's usually at the register, forcing a smile for customers who have no idea he once thought he was hot SHT with his specialty coffee business and Tesla. That's the thing about consequences, they're not always dramatic. Sometimes they're just life, grinding you down one minimum wage hour at a time. Ina's new husband seems like a decent guy from what I can tell. Blue collar, simple, honest work. The opposite of what she thought she wanted when she was effing a sophisticated entrepreneur in my bed. Maybe she learned that excitement isn't worth stability. Maybe she just settled for what she could get. Either way, not my problem. People ask if I regret anything. If I would have handled it differently. No. I regret marrying her, sure. Regret not seeing the signs earlier. But my response? Textbook perfect. Some might say I was cruel. That I should have just confronted her immediately, had it out, moved on like adults. But here's what those people don't understand. She made calculated decisions every single day to betray me. Every text to Philip, every lie about book club, every time she effed him in my bed, those were choices. Deliberate, conscious choices. So I made calculated decisions too. The difference is mine were legal, documented, and permanent. She played stupid games. She won stupid prizes. And me? I won my freedom, my dignity, and the knowledge that when someone tries to play me for a fool, I don't get mad. I get methodical. This is George, signing off from this saga. My new life starts now, built on solid foundations with someone who actually understands that trust isn't weakness, it's strength given to someone who deserves it. Ina didn't deserve it. Diana does. That's all that matters now. Epilogue, a note on revenge. Since this blew up more than expected, let me leave you with this. Revenge isn't about anger. If you're angry, you've already lost. Revenge is about justice, balance, consequences. It's about ensuring that actions have appropriate reactions. I didn't destroy Ayana's life, she did that herself with every choice she made. I simply ensured she couldn't destroy mine in the process. If you find yourself in a similar situation, here's my advice. Document everything. Every text, every receipt, every suspicious moment. Store it in multiple places. Lawyer up immediately. Don't wait, don't hesitate. The first one to prepare properly usually wins. Protect your assets legally. Don't hide money, move it through legitimate channels. Pay off debts, make legal purchases, contribute to retirement accounts. Stay calm. The moment you lose your cool, you lose credibility. Let them be the emotional mess while you're the rational adult. Use professionals. Private investigators, forensic accountants, attorneys. This isn't the time for DIY. Never bluff. Only threaten what you can and will follow through on. Know when to walk away. Once you've won, don't gloat. Victory is its own reward. Ayana thought she was the player in this game. Turned out she was just another property I had to assess accurately and handle accordingly. Overvalued assets always correct to their true market value eventually. She's living at hers now. I'm living at mine. And that gap between them? That's what you call justice. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.